The conclusion to this research that I did was unequivocal, proving that the safest, happiest children were children who were in touch with both sides of their family. Risk assessments are one of the services we provide that mean a great deal to me. I have family who got into trouble, family that I was very close with, and they got into trouble. There, but for the grace of God, I could have been in trouble. I could have quite easily gone down the same route as they did. Similar circumstances, we had the same family, but we had similar views and similar outlooks, and we had a similar attitude. So that it could have easily happened to me. It could have gone both ways, and as it happens, I went the other to help people and try and avoid problems and trouble altogether. So it was circumstances. It wasn't by design or deliberate. So that's how I feel about these guys. They've got into trouble, and some of the stories were heartbreaking. There are circumstances that lead people into trouble, cause people to get into trouble. Just normally talking about normal crimes here. And in a lot of instances, it's just the circumstances and the environment that led to that crime happening. And other people, I'm sure, in those circumstances, in that environment, would have behaved in exactly the same way and done exactly the same type of crime. The ones that I was really interested in were the offenders, shall we call them, who harmed children. Now, I needed to know exactly why they harmed children. The conclusion to this research that I did was unequivocal, proving that the safest, happiest children were children who were in touch with both sides of their family. No doubt about that. But what came as an added bonus was that the offenders who were likely to take advantage of these children would not look at them twice if the father was in regular contact with them. Even better than that, the criminals that I befriended and I got to know and I spoke with and I tried to understand for my research and for personal reasons, I wanted to understand why some people got into trouble and others didn't, why some people became addicts and others didn't. And so that became pretty clear. But one of the things that came as an added bonus to all this was that the perpetrators, we'll call them perpetrators because I don't believe you're allowed to even use the blinking word on YouTube. So we'll just call them the perpetrators, and you know who I'm talking about. They were terrified of these offenders, these other offenders, the guys who got into trouble with the law. They were terrified of them. I'll give you a quick example that I always cite just to illustrate this point. A guy came out of prison after 5 years and we arranged for him to have a flat, 2-bedroom flat, so that he could have his daughter at the weekends. And other charities got involved and we finished up getting him some paint and decorating stuff and some furniture and carpets and bedding and all these different things. So that he was ready by the weekend, once we got him his flat, by that weekend he was ready to have his daughter, and he was on my phone arranging to see her and where he was going to take her to see her aunties and her uncles and all these different people, his nana and all that stuff. And that's when I was thinking to myself, this is a job well done, this is what it's all about. So I was driving back and they phoned me, social services phoned me, you've just arranged for an ex-offender. Bear in mind, these were just ordinary offences. I won't go into the details, but it was nothing to do with like children or women or anything like that. So I said, well, yeah, there's no reason not to. And she said, well, you shouldn't. This is a social worker on the phone. She was raging because I'd arranged this for him to have his daughter. And it was a child safety issue, I think she said, something along those lines. And I says, no, on the contrary, He's just done 5 years. He's now looking after his daughter at the weekends. As far as I'm concerned, that wee girl is the safest wee girl in Bradford. Who the hell in their right mind's going to say anything inappropriate to that girl or do anything inappropriate to her? Because all that will happen was she'll go see her dad at the weekend and she'll say, Dad, this man said this, or this man said whatever, or he did something. Did he, darling? Tell me more. And that's all he'd want to know. He would just need to know who this person was, and that would be the end of it. So that's what keeps children safe. The vicinity of the father, the access to the father, to the interaction and the relationship and the love of a father. So any young women out there, let me tell you, you are now looking for quality men. Women who have multiple partners up until their 20s, late 20s, 30s and things like this, they regret it. They all regret it. They might come on Facebook saying, oh, we've got loads of money and we've no children. And really, you regret it. You need that responsibility. Everyone needs responsibility because people with responsibilities behave responsibly. Simple. So you bring your children up to be good parents, and you do that by demonstrating to them how to be a good parent and what a good parent actually does. There was one incident where one of my daughters said to a young guy, they were out in the front of the house messing about, and she got really cross with this guy. She said, don't you dare talk to me in that tone of voice. My dad didn't use that in me. I'm not going to take it from you. Because we as dads, we set the standards of what's acceptable and what isn't. And I remember one saying to me that she knew something was wrong because she thought my dad wouldn't touch me like that. That's how she knew something was wrong. That's how she knew. And it's how the man actually sets the standard up. If men see women who are vulnerable, and these women who are vulnerable are generally women who do not have an upbringing where they could interact and relate to their father, and they would feel uncomfortable with men because they don't know, they can't enjoy a man's company. They don't know how to just sort of chat ordinarily to the father or to any man really. I'm going to give you a quick example, an illustration of this problem, and it's a heartbreaking story. It was one of the girls that I looked after in a children's home, and she was very violent. She'd attacked a social worker, and she was so aggressive and intimidating because she's a big girl. But the social workers were terrified of her, and the only way they could get any answers and ask her any questions was over the phone. And even then she would start off straight away by shouting and swearing at them. So what they did, they said, told me to go into the room with this girl while she answers a phone call from her social worker. If she starts getting aggressive, terminate the call. So 2 minutes into this conversation, she was getting dithered and restless, etc. So I gestured for her to let me listen in. When I'm listening to this guy, he's talking to this 15-year-old girl on terms of, yes, darling, sweetheart, lovey. And I'm not talking about a London darling or a Glasgow darling. This was like the creepy one. So I terminated the call. She says, what are you doing? I wasn't swearing. I says, I know, but we've got to explain to you what's happening. She says, come on, let's go see the manager. So obviously I wanted to discuss it in front of the manager, but we both of us together explained that was totally inappropriate for a man to talk to her like in that way, and the manager was going to deal with it and reprimand that social worker. And at the same time, we talked about her own upbringing. When she'd gone, we decided that what probably happened, it's the only relationship she's ever known, or the only kind of interaction she'd ever known from men, from creepy people who'd done these horrible things to her, brutal things to her, when she was a young girl. And one of the ways that they would befriended her and got her confidence would have been talking to her like a child. So we came to an agreement, we both agreed to, in front of the manager, We would talk to each other like adults. We would talk like equals to each other, and we'll respect each other. And from then on, it transformed the girl. Long story, but there was massive improvements. The social services could not believe the transformation from this vulnerable young woman to being an assertive young woman. Please subscribe if you haven't done already, and tick on the bell for notifications, and click a like if you liked the video. Thanks for listening. I do appreciate it. Thank you.